Right, lads, we have just finished Stalker 2. I want to give you my honest, straight to the point thoughts and feelings about the game after 65 hours. So this is going to be my final review. Lads, I think we should start with the good things and we'll get onto the not so good things. I think that will be the best way to structure this. So, what do I like about the game? I love the combat. I love the shooting. The first person shooting is excellent. You shoot an enemy in the head, it makes an awesome noise. It feels good. It feels great. Something this game does that's extra special, and it's not something that I normally pick up on, but this game does it so well that I have to comment on it. The sound design. I don't think I've played a game before where I've been wowed at the sound design. Normally sound is just something in the background that happens that you don't even realize. The weather effects, the wind howling, the rain beating down that blocks out every other sound of the environment, storms rolling in, the sound of the guns. Lads, it's all phenomenal. It's probably the best I've ever heard in a game. Now, that adds on to the atmosphere. Atmosphere is bleak. It's in the Ukraine and it feels depressing, which is the perfect atmosphere for this type of game, post-apocalyptic game. I enjoy the exploration. I enjoy seeing new sights. There's some awesome large anomalies to see, which you are in awe of. The sheer scale of them. It's impressive to look at. But when I talk about exploration, the good exploration is seeing new things. The bad exploration is that you're very rarely rewarded for it. And we'll get onto that in a second. I enjoyed the quests. The main cool set piece main missions were awesome. Some of the side quests were good, but I do feel that it was a lot. Side quests were very front loaded, which means you come across more of the interesting ones early game within the first 15 hours. I think the game sets things up for you in the first 15 hours where you think it's going to get a lot better, when actually the more you play the game, it does deteriorate. But there's some really cool side quests at the start of the game where they're open-ended. You can solve them any way you want. You can do it properly, doing it the way people have asked you to do it. You can kill them and not do the quest. You can do the quest, give them the thing they've asked for, then shoot them and take it back off them, getting all the rewards. I really enjoyed that. It was a lot of fun. And for the first 15 hours, it's quite concentrated in the starter two areas. Everywhere you go, you're finding like a new quest. After the start two areas, it gets a little bit sparse. But we're now going to move on to the questionable and possibly bad things. Lads, the performance. I've got mid-range hardware. I got 60 frames per second most of the time. But in towns and cities and areas that are got a lot going on, you're getting around about 40 frames per second. And it's not too bad, it's manageable. But for a first-person shooter, trying to hit those headshots at 40 frames per second is a bit harsh. And I feel like some of the main story missions, even though they're in maybe a set location in a bunker underground somewhere, the world still renders the entire world above you. So you're still getting low frame rates during like hype main missions. And I feel like that could be patched. They can definitely patch that. It's not patched at the moment. I'm praying for a performance patch. It's not there. The game still runs like a bag of spanners sometimes. If you've got high-end hardware, you're not going to have this problem. But I need to let most people know that the performance, I don't think that the visuals are good, but I don't think the visuals are good enough to warrant the levels of performance we're getting. Now, bugs. The game's quite buggy. For the first 20 or 25 hours of the game, I had very few bugs. But it's common knowledge that when you get to a certain story quest, the game starts to unravel a bit and starts to fall apart. I've had a few quests that can't really be completed because people are locked in buildings. Doors are locked when they shouldn't be. Enemies and allies are spawned within a safe zone, so they can't shoot or kill each other, which means the quests are soft locked. Apparently, with the latest patch, those have been fixed. I can't comment on if they have been for me because I passed those missions and had to leave them bugged. I had to move on with the game because I didn't know when the game was going to be patched. But apparently they've been fixed, although these new patches have created other bugs. Bugs I've experienced. Can't move character. Sometimes you'll be playing the game, you might reload your gun or go into your inventory. Then when you come up with your inventory, your character's frozen. You can only strafe left or right, but you can't pan the camera. Whether I try to use the controller or the mouse, it's locked. You have to either, if you're lucky, a game reload will do that. If you're unlucky, you might have to completely close the game down and reboot it. I've had my saves corrupted during the main mission, which means every save I made during that main mission was a corrupted save. I don't know if it was just the location that we were in. So we had to get through that mission without saving the game, which was fine. But if you don't know, and your saves are limited in this game, you can only have so many hard saves, which is weird for a game in 2024 on PC. I don't know why you would ever, lads. If I want to have 3 million save games, as long as I've got the hard drive space for it, I want it. You've got to overwrite save games or just delete some eventually. I imagine if you're not that type of person like me who saves every 5 seconds, then you've got a point if you're on a quest and you don't know your saves are being corrupted. You're going to lose all of your progress. I've read horror stories online about that happening. It hasn't happened to me, but quite a common thing with the latest patch is people's save games are just gone. Like all of them. Fresh start. People have been playing this game for in excess of 65 hours. Save games gone. It's not good. It's not a good look. I can manage soft bugs that maybe fail a quest or two. I don't particularly mind that. But when it causes you to lose all of your progress, I find that unacceptable. The economy. Now, I mentioned I enjoyed the exploration for the sites that you're going to see. But the exploration's not rewarding monetarily or getting good items. Most of the loot in the game are consumables. Medkits, cat food, bullets, things like that. The guns that you find, the majority of the guns that you're going to find are broken, which means you might find a nice new gun, but it's red condition, which means you have to repair it, and the repair costs are astronomical. It wasn't for me until around about 35 to 40 hours in did I even stop using the starter weapon, because it wasn't economical to use anything else, and because I had to repair armor and the costs are so high. So what I mentioned about the exploration not being worthwhile is you go to a location, you fight a load of enemies, you find some dog shit loot that's broken, you take all of the loot off the enemies that you've killed. The only thing you're going to use that loot you've collected for is to take back to a base to sell, to repair the weapons and armor that you're using. It's not a fun gameplay loop that I enjoy. Some people might, I don't. I find it a slog, especially so because you can't carry much weight. By default, you can carry 80 kilograms. That includes all the loot, the weapons and armor that you're using. I normally use the default pistol, a shotgun, and a rifle with a scope on it. That's my loadout. At the lowest, you're going to be carrying 30 kilograms by default, so you've only got 50 kilograms to use. But it's not really 50 kilograms to use, because once you get up into the 60% weight limit, you start to move slower. Once you get to the 80% weight limit, you get red movement speed, so you can't run effectively. So when you're trying to haul loot back, which you can't actually carry much of, just to repair your gear, it's a ball ache. A massive ball ache. I would confidently say that 30 hours of my 65 hours playtime is just walking places or carrying loot back to base. It's not big, it's not clever, it's not fun. You very rarely One thing I do like about the game is if you wanted to play the game a second time, all of the loot is in set places. So if you know where to get the best loot, you can just beeline it. I like that style of loot. I don't like randomized loot. So that's good. But for your first time playthrough, most of the places you're going to go to, you're going to get nothing for it. And often at times, you're going to walk away in the negative. Now, the first patch dropped and it did address some of the economy issues. For example, halfway through my playthrough, I got the first patch and it did make the economy in repairing your gear a lot easier, because the repair costs were lowered by exactly 30%. You get more money for selling things and you get more money for quest rewards. So it was nice. So when you play the game, after watching this review, you're going to have an easier time than I did. But it's still, it's not fixed enough for it not to be a slog, if that makes sense. Especially because by the end game, the armor repair costs are a lot, even though you are offset by quite good quest monetary rewards. You might find a gun that you like, but it's broken and you want to try it. For example, I found an RPG. It was broken. I wanted to fire some rockets at some bitches. But I kept delaying it and delaying it and delaying it and delaying it to the end game. Because why am I going to spend 50 grand, $50,000 to repair an RPG that I've only got 4 rockets for when I need that 50 grand to repair my gear that's actually going to get me for the game? So I think the game does penalize you having fun because of the economy. Right, that's by the by. I don't enjoy that gameplay, is what it is. The torch in the darkness, my god, lads, the game is very, very dark. Even in daytime, it seems like I'm wearing sunglasses. Now I'm over exaggerating there, but when you're fighting mutants and monsters, it's not a problem because they engage you in melee combat. It's fine shooting things, running with a shotgun. When you're fighting enemies in dark areas, your torch only illuminates 6 foot in front of you. It doesn't illuminate down a corridor. Enemies can see you from whenever, wherever. They see you through walls. They spawn on top of you. In the dark, they know where you are. Even if you don't have the torch on, you can't see them. This was amplified massively by the last missions in the game. They take place underground in bunkers that don't have any lights or very few lights, very few ambient lighting. And my god, I'm sat at one end of the corridor, army of enemies at the other end of the corridor. Even with a scope on my gun, I'm just seeing black, but they can laser beam me wherever I am. I wouldn't say it was a fun experience, but it's a problem. They need to either make the flashlight better or add more ambient light to areas where you're going to be fighting human enemies, because you the range you can see in relative darkness is so short. In the distance you've got to engage enemies with, it makes for unfun gameplay, especially in a shooter where you have to see what you're shooting at. I hope they fix that. It's a problem. It really is a problem, and that's going to lead me on to the which I've already mentioned there. The enemy actual AI. They've got X-ray vision. You can be peeking around the corner. They'll already be ready, shooting bullets at you as you lean. And I did play it on hardest difficulty. I've mentioned that the hardest difficulty it's quite enjoyable. But when the enemies are using high powered sniper rifles or ghost rifles, and they can two tap you, it feels a bit unfair when you can't see them and they can see you. Talking about I can't even remember if I've mentioned this anymore. But shit. Yeah, so I couldn't remember if I'd mentioned it because I've been talking for so long. Which you might have just seen there in the gameplay is the enemy spawns, lads. The enemy spawns are absolutely wild. The system that this game was supposed to have is a system the other Stalker games had. The previous ones was called A-Life, where the zones, enemies, and factions are independent of the player. They they do their own thing. They fight each other, and the winning faction can possibly take over a portion of the map, which would lead to exciting gameplay. That's what the game was supposed to have in it. The developers did not ship this game with the A-Life system, so the land you explore is pretty barren and empty. There's nothing happening in it outside of your character having a 100-meter radius around him in which enemies will randomly spawn. I don't know what triggers the spawns, but what just happened in this footage is enemies start spawning in the building behind me. And it happens too frequently, lads. I've been doing a stealth mission before where I've come through a base unseen, undetected, and then out of the corner of my eye, I've just saw someone spawn right there. See me immediately, raise the alarm, turn my head a little bit to the left, boom, 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 3 little guys pop up, spawned in on me. It happens too frequently to just be like an anomaly. It's an anomaly, lads. Everything in this game is an anomaly. It's far too frequent. It doesn't even have the illusion of enemies spawning at those 100 meters away from you. It seems to always happen just out of your line of sight or on top of you. I've had times when enemies have literally teabagged me in the face, spawned from the heavens. Spoils the game. It's really unacceptable to ship a game in that state. This world is barren and empty outside of a 100-meter radius from your player character. And for the size of the map, it's just not good. You can't go, if you go up to a tower with a sniper, oh, well, there's no binoculars in the game. There's no scope longer than a 4x scope in the game. If you go up to the top of a tower and look out of your 4x zoom, which is the biggest scope you can get in the game, you just see fuck all. Absolutely nothing. Hopefully they can patch the actual A-Life system into the game. But I don't want to be a pessimist, lads. But I don't think they ever will. I don't think the devs are ever going to patch the correct working A-Life system into the game. I hope they do, but I just can't see it. I think it's a ruse. I think it's a lie. I don't think they are capable of getting it working. But I hope I am proved wrong. Now, the last thing I want to mention is related to the main story. I just wish I enjoyed the main story, although sometimes I was confused at what was going on. But I think that confusion happens because there's so much empty space between main missions that you often forget what's going on. There's no sign of urgency with it. And the amount of running you've got to do between main missions to get to the good shit, your brain becomes numb to what you're meant to be doing other than just running for hours between the pre-main missions to get to the main mission. Last but not least, I think this could be alleviated by just adding more fast travel locations to the world. Add more guides that you can pay money, zip backwards and forwards. And I think it's gonna have more players stick with the game. So lads, that's all I've got to say about the game. I did enjoy my time with it, although a lot of it was a slog. The good bits were good, the bad bits were extremely boring. So what would I give this game out of 10? I couldn't give this game any more than a... Lads, the thing is though, I actually love the game. I love the game. I love the good bits of the game, but there's far too many bad bits. I can't give this game more than a 6.5 out of 10. If they get the A-Life system working where there's actually things going on in the zone and enemies can take over different places, and then that would make zones interesting to go to because no one playthrough would be the same. If they fix the bugs, the performance, the AI, not have them know where you are, have them fix the lighting in the darkness, have them fix the torch so you can actually see what you're doing in gunfights. The game's probably going to be a strong 8 out of 10, but for now it's not. I would be hesitant to recommend this game to you, but if you're resilient enough to just get past the shit bits, there's a really good game here. Unfortunately, I can't recommend it. Lads, if you're playing the game, I hope you're enjoying it. If you're not playing the game, maybe give it a go if it's free on Game Pass, and if you like what you see, then continue playing. But if you want to spend your cold hard money on this game, leave it a year, see if they fix the bugs. Take care, lads. Look after yourselves.